Carrie, Fullerton Professional Organizing, and today I'm talking to you about someone that performed a miracle. It's going to seem like it because she figured out a way to get her family to help with housework and keeping the house tidy. Now, her name is Ashley Buffa or Buffa, and I will leave her information in the description. But she is mother of 10 children, ages 18 to a year old. That person's probably 2 years old now. And she started off by saying that I'm not a naturally clean and organized person. Like, I really fought against it for the majority of my life. So it's not something that comes naturally to me at all. But I do love being in a tidy and clean and organized environment. So I'm going to tell you what some of my notes are from what I heard her tell us. We have to model a good attitude about keeping it tidy, first of all, because if we grumble and complain and act like it's horrible, our family is naturally gonna feel like it's horrible. And so, we think it's horrible, they think it's horrible, and then it just makes it one of those things that you put up walls and you just don't want to do, and your family won't want to do either because you already told them it was horrible. It's kind of like when someone picks up a vegetable and eats it and that person goes, "Oh, gross," and then the next person tastes it and it automatically is gross to them. They didn't even give it a chance. So so that's the first thing she says. Just model a good behavior and attitude. Change your mindset. And if you can't have a good attitude, just have a neutral attitude. Just realize that it has to get done anyway. So you might as well change your mindset around it. Next, she says, make it enjoyable. Make an enjoyable playlist of podcasts or music that you can make tidying more enjoyable to get it done. Use that time as alone time. That's where you're changing your mindset. She says when she does the laundry, she doesn't want anyone in the laundry room except for herself, so that she uses that as quiet time. She gets the laundry done and she listens to her favorite music. And then she says implement the 5-minute family cleanup. If you want to have the kitchen cleaned up after you've cooked dinner, she says she's the mom, she's the one that cooks the dinner, so she's not going to do the cleanup. So she has each family member, and she says she does let her husband pick what he wants because the grown-ups get to pick, she says, and then each child has a job to do, and right after supper everyone has to pitch in like teamwork to get it done, but until it's finished. And that's down to from the dishes all the way down to sweeping and cleaning the floor, sweeping the floors. Now, the 5-minute cleanup is when, let's say you want the living room cleaned up, and you tell the whole family to come into the living room, and everyone spends 5 minutes tidying the living room. And once those 5 minutes are up, you've set that timer. Once that 5 minutes is up, whether that room is clean or not, they get to leave and go on their own to do whatever they were doing. Now, she suggests if the room wasn't cleaned up after 5 minutes, and she does make sure that each family member is doing 5 focused minutes of cleanup. They're not just pretending to clean up for 5 minutes while the others are actually doing the work. They spend 5 focused minutes cleaning the living room. She lets them go, and if the room is not finished, then maybe before bed or on a different day, she didn't really specify, they might do another 5 minutes. But she makes sure she sticks to the 5 minutes so that one, they learn to trust her when she says come and clean, and two, it doesn't seem like such a daunting task to come and clean for 5 minutes. Now, telling them, okay, we're going to spend the whole day cleaning the garage, that is, that's going to put up walls and resistance right away. So that's her tip that she used with her family. So let me now look at my notes because I know I missed some stuff. Show them the 5-minute family cleanup, the whole family in one room for 5 minutes, for focused minutes with lively music. If it is not finished, do another 5 minutes later, because this shows that you're keeping your word. And then what do you want each person's chore to be? Each person needs to be assigned chores because you're a family and you all have to keep the house tidy and work as a team. So that's another thing. Each person in the home has a chore. Hers is the laundry and she cooks. So each family cleans after dinner, kitchen and dining room cleanup until it is done, dishes to floors, etc. You are all a team. When you start the whole family tidying routines, though, if you're starting to implement what she's talking about right now in this podcast, then she says, don't start it all at once. That's going to also they're also going to resist. Start each family member off with one chore a day until that chore becomes a habit. Now that could be, one new chore a month, and by the end of the year, they'll have 12 chores. Now that just popped into my head. I don't know how many chores, but one chore a month, because it gives them 30 days for it to really develop into a habit. And she also suggests, don't be like, okay, Susie's gonna wash, she has 10 kids, so she could have a different person wash the dishes every 10 days, a different one. I mean, in 10 days, a whole different person washed the dishes because she has 10 kids. But instead, she says each one has their own assignment for at least 6 months or a year, because they need to be proficient in that chore. The person that washes dishes needs to do the dishes until they know how to do them very well. And then, so even if she were to rotate, she wouldn't do it until they're proficient in dishwashing or etc. And then she talked about spouses. Now, she says she has 10 kids, so she's figured out what works for each of the 10 kids' personalities. But she only has one husband. She's only ever had one husband. So she doesn't really have a lot of advice that will work for your particular husband. But she says, hopefully your husband's open, but if he is, let him pick the chores that he wants to do. Will be easier buy-in. And she says negativity does never work. So try not to manipulate the chores getting done that way. Now I'm going to do a little overview. Ashley Buffa helps answer the question we all have, which is, how do I get my family members on board with cleaning and organizing the house without using the typical chore charts? The first step is to look at ourselves and our attitudes. If we want our kids to have a good attitude, we have to model that for them. Now, Ashley says, I am not a naturally clean and organized person, but I do love being in a clean and organized environment. And because I have 1,000,000 kids, she has 10, if I get them on board, I'm going to be constantly chasing. If I don't get them on board, I'm going to constantly be chasing my tail. And that's why if you talk or on those TV shows where these parents have 1,000,000,000 children or 1,000,000 children or 10 children or 16, the mothers who are on TV that have all these children, the one thing I have learned from them is because they have so many children, they had to assign all the kids chores, and the whole family had to work as a teamwork because the job would be way too much for one person to do. So if a mom of 15 or 16 children, and in this case, Ashley has 10, if they can get their kids to pitch in, then it's definitely possible for us that have smaller families. I just had my son and my daughter, and they're no longer at home, so I can't test out any of this, but I did learn with my children, I did have to be consistent. I couldn't just throw in the towel because they would be in the habit of going, oh, well, mom will push us to do this, but eventually she's going to give up and we'll be fine, and then they just don't take you seriously. And that is something that I did learn, that when I was not consistent, my kids just didn't take me seriously. So kids don't want an open-ended task. They don't understand what exactly it means to clean the living room. A definitive stopping point helps their brains understand. So that is talking about the 5-minute rule and also giving them something specific to do or letting them know what a clean living room looks like. Give a child a job for a long period of time, such as 6 months to a year. That way they do it until it is mastered. Realize this will take time. You may have to switch chores around if after time you see that it's not at their age level that they can actually do it. If it's not age appropriate, they won't be able to do it. And only you will know over time. But don't give up. Just, you may have to figure out what they can do. Because after time, you see that it isn't the best one for that child to do. Now, 1, show your family the power of 5 minutes of focused work. Call everyone into the room you want cleaned. Set the timer for 5 minutes. When the timer goes off, everyone can go whether the job is complete or not. Figure out what chores you want each person to do. Everyone needs to help out and work together as a team. There are jobs for every age. When one finishes, they help someone else until the entire job is done. 3, phase the chores in. Start with the 5-minute cleanups until they are a habit. After a week or 2, assign each child one chore. When that becomes a habit, add another and keep going until all the jobs are taken in the home. If your spouse is on board or even neutral, give him a job that he enjoys doing, or, none of us really enjoy, but you know what I mean, enjoys doing. If he isn't on board, there's really not much you can do. Eventually, after he sees how it works, he may get on board. All right, guys. Well, I hope these tips helped you. And just remember to be consistent, and they'll come around. They're not never None of you are going to just love it unless you're that type, but most of us don't like it or love it, but we do enjoy a tidy space and an organized space and a clean space. So it has to be done, so we might as well have an attitude that just says it has to be done. Let's try to make it as pleasant as possible. Sorry, there's a bug flying around. And get it done. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next one.